I was exactly investing was not for me. I didn't understand money. I was terrible at math. And I was brought up to believe that making and managing money was a man's job. And my father, whenever I asked my father, who was in the finance business, whenever I asked him about money, he would always say to me, don't worry. Well, under those words was the unspoken assumption there'll always be a man to take care of you, which at the time thought was great advice. I didn't understand. I just wanted to be taken care of.
This is the Angel Next Door podcast, where we will talk about all things angel investing, what it is, who does it, how do we find them, what does it mean to invest in an early stage company. If you have ever wondered how you can affect the change you want to see in the world, then tune in to learn more. In this episode, I'm talking to Barbara Huson, best-selling author, financial therapist, and advocate for women's financial empowerment. Barbara shares her deeply personal journey from financial uncertainty to wealth, including hard lessons learned from losing her inheritance — her dad was the R in H&R Block — and building her own financial expertise from the ground up. She tells us about the surprising neuroscience behind our money habits, reveals the 4 key pillars of mastering our finances, and offers simple daily steps that anyone, especially women, can use to build financial confidence and independence. Enjoy the show. Barbara, thank you so much for being here on the Angel Next Door podcast. Welcome.
Thank you for having me, Marcia.
Well, I am so excited to talk to you after learning about your background, the 7 books that you have written all about money and women in money. I was just so fascinated. I was so excited to be able to have you come on the podcast and talk about it. And before the episode, I was sharing a little bit about how I'm really into demystifying what it means to invest in early stage companies, hence the name of the podcast being The Angel Next Door, how anybody can become an early stage investor. But I think there's a lot of things that we need to talk about even before people get to that investing place. And I've talked to so many people, especially women, who say, oh my gosh, I just don't know that investing could be for me. Seems like I'd have to have a finance degree. I didn't think I was very good at math in school, all the things. I'm sure you've heard it all. So I would love for you to share with us a little bit about your background and everything. Tell us everything.
I was exactly like those women you talked about. I was exactly investing was not for me. I didn't understand money. I was terrible at math. And I was brought up to believe that making and managing money was a man's job. And my father, whenever I asked my father, who was in the finance business, whenever I asked him about money, he would always say to me, don't worry. Under those words was the unspoken assumption there'll always be a man to take care of you. At the time, thought it was great advice. I didn't understand. I just wanted to be taken care of. And I found a man who was a stockbroker. That's who I married. So he was perfect, right? Well, I found out very early in my marriage, he was a compulsive gambler.
Oh, dear.
And over the course of our 15-year marriage, he lost almost all my inheritance.
Oh my goodness.
And here's the thing. I find out every year, many times a year, he was gambling away my money. And here's the insane part. I continued to let him manage it because that's how intimidated and terrified I was about anything financial and especially about investing. Finally, after our divorce, I decided money's not my thing. I do not want to deal with money. I have this theory that if you don't deal with your money will deal with you.
I love that.
In the next year, I got tax bills for way over $1 million, almost $2 million, $1,800,000 something. I did not have anywhere near $1 million left. My husband had left the country. When I asked my father to lend me money, he refused.
Oh no.
I had 3 children. I was not going to raise them on the street. They were young. One was just a baby. My husband left the country. So I was left holding the bag. So I did what you're supposed to do. I went to the classes, I read the books, I did all those things, and my eyes would glaze over and my brain would fog up. And I just figured I was terminally stupid. But I believe that when you are committed, like down to your toes, committed, no back door, the universe revolves to help you reach your goal. And I was working at the time as a journalist for the San Francisco Business Times. And I was hired for a freelance project to interview women who were smart with money. And I want to tell you, those interviews changed my life. I not only got smart with money, but I wrote my first book, Prince Charming Isn't Coming: How Women Get Smart About Money. And suddenly I had this whole new career. I was traveling around the country, doing financial education for women, but I couldn't make money. So I wrote my second book. I interviewed women who made 6, 7, 8 figures. And I started making 6 figures before I even finished writing that book, Secrets of 6-Figure Women. And now 7 books later, here I am talking to you as a financial expert.
Amazing. My goodness. Okay, so tell us more about these interviews. What were you learning? What were some of the big takeaways?
The biggest thing I learned, huge for me, it was huge. It wasn't what these women did. It was how they thought. When I shifted my thinking, everything changed. That was true for the investing part,
Hmm.
and that was true for the earning part.
Wow.
What I came to realize is that learning about money is a four-pronged process. There's the outer work of wealth, which is the practical information, how to tell a stock from a bond, all those things that the financial industry focuses on. But for those of us who have trouble with the practical information like I did, what's important is this inner work of wealth, looking at your beliefs, attitudes, and early decisions you made about yourself and money. And then there's the third prong, which is really important for money, because one thing about women, once we are financially stable, once we have a roof over our head, we have food on the table, we can take care of our kids, we can get a mani-pedi, we're not motivated by money. Yeah, we want to make money. We do. But what we're motivated by is helping others. So what I found is that women tend to shy away from money until they see how it relates to their purpose, how it helps them do what they're put on this planet to do. And then there is that fourth prong, which is what I call the deeper work of wealth, and that's how the mind and brain work together. So you have the outer work, the inner work, the higher work, and the deeper work.
Wow. So tell us about your book, Rewire for Wealth.
That's where the neuroscience came in. So
Yeah.
it happened about 6, 7, oh, God, it happened about 7 years ago, where so I have been doing this work I call myself a financial therapist and a wealth coach, and I have been doing this work for almost over 30 years, almost 40,
Oh.
working with women, exclusively with women. And one day, about 6 or 7 years ago, I started losing interest in my work.
Hmm.
I don't know, I just started dreading going to work, and it, like, shocked me. It was like, this was more than a job to me. This was like my mission. It's like my ministry. This is what I was born for. So I started trying to push, and nothing happened, and I just kept coming up against blocks, and I kept losing my interest. So finally, I just said, "Okay, I surrender. Show me what it is." I felt like something was missing. So one day, I took a lot of stuff off my plate, and I really stepped back from work. And one day, I was looking at my email, and there was an article on neuroscience. I read that article, and that's like my brain said, "Wow, this is it. This is the missing piece." So I started studying neuroscience for several years, and then I started applying what I was learning with my clients and with me. I saw how applying neuroscience with the outer, the inner, and the higher work, it so expedited the learning curve. It so increased motivation that I started adding it, and then I wrote my book, Rewire for Wealth.
How do you do that? How do you bring in all that neuroscience?
What I did is I brought it down to 3 steps, but first you have to understand how the brain and mind work together. So the brain is a physical organ in our head, right? It's like this little brain. It is what controls our behavior. But the mind, which is not a physical organ, it is the intangible source of our thoughts and feelings, is what shapes our brain. Now, trying to go against the brain is like trying to go against gravity. If you've tried to change things through willpower, like eating less or making more,
Right.
it's really an uphill battle.
Right.
But if you use your thoughts and feelings to reshape those neural pathways, you automatically change your behavior easily and effortlessly. Now, it takes a while. It takes a good amount of repetition and time to do this, but it's so worth it. And change can happen in 2 weeks if you do it. I boiled it all down to 3 steps.
Okay.
The idea is you have to notice what you're thinking. And notice how you have these unhealthy thoughts that may be holding you back. Like, for example, you think, oh, there's never enough.
Mhm.
There's never enough. Well, what happens if you keep thinking that, and if you heard that growing up, it becomes embedded in your brain as a neural pathway, and those neural pathways are what controls our behavior. And our brain will not see, will not do, will not hear anything that goes against those neural pathways that have become deep-seated beliefs. So if we want to do something, we have to change the belief. Here's 3 steps to change that. Let's say the thought, as I said, is there's never enough. I'll tell you the 3 steps, and then I'll go through them. The first step is recognize. Second is reframe. And third is respond differently. First is recognize the thought going in through your head. If you have a nervous feeling, scared feeling, you resistant, the thought is there's never enough. But you notice it with curiosity, not with criticism, not with blame. Oh, stop that. No, isn't that interesting? I'm having a thought there's never enough. And what that does is it separates you from your thought. You are not your thoughts. This is just a thought you probably thought over and over again. It's become a neural pathway. So you recognize it with curiosity. Second step is you reframe it. You say to yourself, how can I see this differently? And you create an affirmation, because words, whether they're in your head or out your mouth, that's what creates those neural pathways. It either strengthens them or weaken them. And so you create an affirmation that is the opposite of your thoughts and your belief. So there's never enough. Oh, there's more than enough. Or I know how to make sure there's more than enough. Whatever it is, I am fine. Whatever it is, you say that affirmation over and over. Repetition is the key. The brain responds to repetition. So you say it over and over again as an affirmation. You will not believe it at all, not for a while. It doesn't matter. You just keep repeating it. Then the third is where the glue happens. You start responding differently as if that affirmation is true. Now, oh, there's more than enough. You don't go out and start spending all this money. What you do is you maybe start putting more money in the bank, in a savings account, or you start spending less. And you won't want to do it. You absolutely nothing in you will want to do it. The brain does not want to change. What you do your best to reframe it and respond differently each time. And after 3 or 4 weeks, you're going to notice it gets a lot easier and your behavior starts to change.
Wow, that is very interesting. And so tell us like some stories of people who have used this and what happened.
So many. It's really good for overspending because a lot of earning is a good one for under earning, overspending, not investing. Okay, for example, I had one client who she was scared to invest, terrified to invest. She just thought it was not safe. Her whole family didn't believe in investing. They kept their money literally in the bureau drawer.
Oh my goodness.
I know. There's quite a few of
Yikes.
those out there, quite a few. And yeah, especially now and it's always rocky. But so she started going through this. Oh, she has a thought that the market is not safe. The market is not safe. She will lose money. And so how did she reframe it? She reframed it as she did a great reframe. If I can learn about the market, so it's safe. I can learn about the market. I can learn about investing, so it's safe. So she kept saying that. And at first, when she tried learning, like she went to a class or she'd read a book, it's like her eyes would glaze, but she kept at it. She kept at it. And I heard when she made her first investment it was at Disney. She did it with her kids. They all got together. They had a little family meeting. They said, what should we invest in? She explained investing to them. And it was beautiful. She had her whole family involved investing in Disney.
Oh, I love that. What a great story. Yes,
I know,
get the children involved early for sure.
Yes, that's one of the things I did. And I was learning about investing. I talked to my children in age-appropriate ways. I didn't want them to worry, but I would talk about it. I even took the older ones when I went to a financial planner or a financial investment advisor. I would take them with me. And I remember one of my daughters had her head down the whole time, but I figured it was seeping in by osmosis.
Yeah, absolutely. So why are there so many differences between the way women think about money and the way men think about money?
Men and women are wired differently. And they've shown in tests, I thought this was so interesting when I saw this. This is one of the things this fact got me very interested in adding neuroscience. When men look at the market and they see all the ups and downs, they get excited. They see it as a challenge. When women look at the market and the volatility, they get scared and they see it as a threat. And our brain will not let us go anywhere. Our brain was wired for survival and safety. It will not let us go anywhere where there's a threat. So that's so much of what holds women back. Because we have been conditioned not to be powerful with money.
Yeah. And that goes way back, much
Way
farther. Yeah.
Very ancestral.
think.
Our
Yes.
ancestors way back.
Yes, totally. I like what you said earlier about if you don't deal with your money will deal with you. Tell us a little more about that.
Well, like what happened with me, I didn't want to deal with money. Money is a relationship. I compared having a relationship with money is like having a relationship with the most wonderful man in the whole world or the most wonderful person in the whole world. It's a typical of a relationship. All money wants is to be respected, liked, and taken care of. But if it's not respected, if it's not liked, if it's not taken care of, it won't stick around. Just like someone in a relationship. If you ignore your partner, that partner's not going to be there for very long. You ignore money, it's not going to be there for very long. So all money wants from you is respect and attention and understanding. So our job is to learn about money. And I can give you 3 steps that I did that really helped me learn about money. Because as I said, I tried going to classes, I tried going to reading books. So when I was interviewing all these women for my first book, Women Who Were Smart with Money, so many of them subscribed to the Wall Street Journal. I subscribed to the Wall Street Journal. Well, that sucker comes every day. I didn't understand a word it said. What I did is I put it on the kitchen counter. And I put the section on investing at the time on the kitchen counter. I figured by osmosis, I'd pick something up every time I walked by it, and it worked. So out of that came 3 steps for getting smart or smarter about money. Every day, read something about money, even if it's just for a minute or 2. Even if you're just standing in line at the grocery store, you pick up Money magazine instead of People and you leaf through it. Every day, even if it's just opening the business section of the newspaper and reading the headlines, Even if it's just when you go to bed at night, get a finance book and read one paragraph. Because so much of getting smart or smarter is just familiarizing yourself with the jargon, the current trends. Every day, read something about money, even if it's just for a minute. 2, every week, have a conversation with money, especially with someone that knows more than you. So when I was writing this book and I was having these conversations, I was learning so much from these women that I started asking anyone I came into contact with who was smart about money. I would say, can I pick your brain? Can I ask you some questions? I think it is our secrecy and silence that keeps us stuck. So you can ask questions like, you don't have to ask how much they make, but ask, how did they learn? What's the best advice they ever got? What's the worst advice they ever got? What's the biggest mistake they ever made? What's the best thing they ever did? What would they recommend for you to read, or what class? You just ask questions and pick their brain. I learned so much, and people surprisingly like talking about their experiences. So every day read, every week talk, and every month save. Automatically have money transferred from your checking account or your payroll check into your savings account. And you don't miss what you don't see. It doesn't need to be a lot. You can start with $5. It doesn't matter, but have it transferred. And then after you have, 3 to 6 months of savings, you can start doing the same thing with investing, dollar cost averaging, putting enough certain small amounts of money every month into an investing account. So every day read, every week talk, and every month save. And in 3 to 4 months, you will be amazed how much.
Wow, that's some great advice. I've heard also from especially women, they're like, well, I do all these other things around the house. Like, I just don't have time to be dealing with money, and I'm just going to give it to my husband to do.
Yeah, a lot of women feel like that. But I feel like that even when I knew my husband wasn't doing it. But I give the example of if you had a condition that would affect the quality of your life as you grow older, a serious condition, I bet you would find time to talk to a doctor to find what the best treatments are and do that. It would just happen automatically. Well, if you're not looking at your money, if you're ignoring it, you have a condition that will affect the quality of your life significantly as you grow older. So it's about making it a priority. And you only have to do it for about 3 or 4 or 6 months to learn about money. But you have to give it some time. It has to be a priority. But the problem is, research shows that women do not get serious about managing money until they hit a crisis, until they lose a job, until on the brink of retirement, or until their partner dies, which is the worst time to start.
Right.
But I really think the real problem is, I noticed this after I wrote my first book, when I was really getting deep into women who had a hard time with money at first, but then they overcame it. I realized that women's difficulties with money has very little to do with anything about money. It has to do with their fear of or ambivalence about power. They are afraid of their power. And I remember when I was writing this book, I interviewed a woman who specialized in money, a psychologist who specialized in money issues, and she specialized with women. And I remember asking her, why are women so afraid of their power? And she said something that gave me chills. She said, powerful women have been burned at the stake. And that's it. We have suffered severe consequences over many generations, as you mentioned before, for stepping into our power. And our collective unconscious is scared. And that's why I think the best way to learn about money is in a group of other women. Is because, and the research has shown, there was a study at Emory University that showed when women get together with other women to learn about finances, a part of the brain that deals with finances actually lights up, which is why I started years ago a women-only online community for money, for creating wealth. Because it's not just about getting out of debt. It's not just about saving enough. To me, it's about having more than enough, which is wealth. Because it's interesting. You know what the root word of wealth is? It comes from the Latin word weal, W-E-A-L. That means peace of mind. And that's the whole purpose to create wealth. It's nice to have a bigger bank account, but it's about giving you peace of mind.
Yes. Well, Barbara, I love how you break things down to be very simple and things that our listeners can walk away knowing that they can do these 3 things and that they can just try by recognizing, reframing, all of those things, and then being able to think about it differently. It's a great way to be able to make those little steps. Because I think sometimes, especially women, we feel like, oh my gosh, this is such a big mountain to climb. That's so much to take on. But I love how you break it down into a daily, weekly, and a monthly thing. Also, because that just makes it so incredibly approachable.
Good, because it's once you get past the fear, it's really fun.
Right. Yes.
I used to lead fun groups for women. It was for fun, for financial understanding now. And we would just have a lot of fun. And once money and understand it changes your life. It really makes you feel so powerful. And that's why we do this. It is not just because what it can do for you, but how you can use your money to make a difference in the world, to make a difference in causes you love and people you love.
Yes. So we will be sure to put all the links to find your books in the show notes, but where can people find you? Where's the easiest place to go?
Easiest is my website, barbara-huson.com.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for being with us today, Barbara, and sharing this amazing knowledge that you have.
Thanks, Marcia.
Thanks for listening. To connect with me, visit my website at marciadawood.com. And please subscribe, follow, and leave a review. It helps the podcast get seen by more people. And remember, you can also find the Angel Next Door podcast on YouTube too. And if you're looking to learn more about investing in the changes you want to see in the world, sign up for Ann and Bill Payne's ACA Angel University classes. Go to theangelcapitalassociation.org, all one word, to find out the schedule. And classes are now available on demand. Many classes are offered, everything from angel investing basics, which include fundamentals, risk, due diligence, term sheets, valuations, returns and portfolio strategy, and even a class on group formation. There's even a deeper dive where you can get advanced classes, including capitalization tables, startup boards, and exit strategies. If you're not already a member of the Angel Capital Association, you can become one for a low price that will give you unparalleled access to discounts, free webinars with a huge archive of content, networking opportunities, and much more. We'd love to have you join us. All content for this website is informational and not intended to serve as legal, tax, accounting, or investing advice. Well, Marcia, that's me, does serve on the SEC Small Business Capital Formation Advisory Committee. My views are my own and not the views of the SEC or my fellow colleagues on the committee. Our speakers and hosts are thoughtfully selected for their educational value, but their opinions are their own and do not necessarily represent the views of the host, me, or the Angel Capital Association, and neither specifically endorse the use of presenters' products or services. Listeners of the podcast should consult their own tax, investing, legal, or accounting advisors before making important financial decisions. All warranties, including accuracy, completeness, and suitability for specific purpose, are disclaimed.